Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Our friend Grant Turner is taking a victory lap, so he'll be a few minutes late jumping on with us. And I'm joined, as always, by Mark Ostrander. Mark, tons to talk about in the wrestling world, but you have a shout-out announcement you'd like to start with.
Yeah, I have another grandchild. I have a grandbaby boy. My middle son, Ben, and his wife, Daisy, just had a baby born at 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning yesterday. So on the 5th, Otto Fitzgerald, they named him. So everybody's doing well. Mom's doing well. Dad's got an hour nap in yesterday. So I said, get used to it. And Otto has a full head of hair. And I said, tell Otto to keep his hair as long as he can.
Yes. Yeah. Well, congrats to Daisy and Ben. Ben, my friendship with Ben is a blessing. It's a result of obviously being friends with you, but awesome dude. Great young man. You did great there. And, I usually get a chance to visit with him. He carves out time when I get to Chicago. So that's awesome. So congratulations to them. There's a lot to talk about this week, Mark. We could spend time on a lot of things. I think one of the things that kind of snuck by quickly, and they did it low profile, were the fact that the charges were dropped against Panero Johnson and the other athletes at Iowa State. And it was all basically based on an illegal search or getting evidence illegally through illegal means. And this is what the Brands brothers and Dresser have been alluding to for months. And I think this was strategically announced during this time of the year with wrestling because, we're going to spend 2 minutes on it. If they had done this the week after the Olympic trial, or 2 weeks before the Olympic trials, we'd be talking about it for an hour. But we have conference tournaments coming up. We have national tournaments that just finished. We have a couple more state tournaments to go. We have a bunch of state tournaments that went last weekend. Then we jump into the NCAA week. And it's wrestling ADD in the best possible way. It's our Christmas, right? This month is our December. So they snuck it in here. Feels super shady. I mean, this is the opinion of David Mirikitani, none of USA Wrestling. So I just have a problem with how they treated these kids. I thought all year it was sort of a victimless crime. I understand gambling can ruin people's lives. I understand. I mean, I used to gamble on football and basketball, and I just stopped doing it because I was literally working my life around watching games instead of the other way around. I just stopped. I cold turkeyed it. I play in one fantasy league a year with you guys for basically $2 a week is what it comes down to. Yeah. And so, and I do what I do. If I miss games, I miss games. If I forget to set my lineup, I forget to set my lineup. And maybe that's not ideal, but I'm running it. It's not running me. So I understand that has negative effects. I understand that there were rules that say that these kids, they knew this. Typically, the strict letter of the law, you're not supposed to gamble and on your own sport and those other things. But these people knew they got to this stuff illegally and then just tried to ramrod it through, and it just feels super unethical to me.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I think the NCAA holding kids out all year long was not right until this thing was settled in a courtroom. Whatever happened to you're innocent until proven guilty. Kind of threw that one right out the window with the NCAA saying, nope, you guys supposedly gambled on, Iowa teams. Maybe it wasn't your own.
No, they had proof. They had proof. They had proof through this illegal search. So it wasn't that they was innocent until proven guilty. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't want you to go down that path because it's not correct. But how they found it was how they obtained the information of them doing this was illegal.
Agreed. I agree 100%. But Panero Johnson didn't plead guilty, didn't say he did anything wrong, took it to court, and then it got dismissed. So he lost a year of eligibility before he was actually found guilty of doing something. Sure, they knew what he had done. They had proof that he did it, but they got the proof illegally. So the NCAA, in my opinion, should not have ruled on this until all the court hearings were done.
Now that's fair. That's more than, I agree with that 100%.
That's what I was trying to get to.
No, I apologize for interrupting you. So I think with the people that did this illegally, they're going to get sued civilly like crazy, because there's defamation of character. There's, damage to reputation for sure. I mean, these people were in the news for all the wrong reasons. Nelson Brands, Tony Cassiope, Seabrick. I mean, I don't even know if forgetting guys is a good or bad thing right now. Not mentioning it may not be a bad thing. But, Nelson Brands put that post out how, he put in $5 and got $200 of free bets or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And then took it down. And I don't know. I don't know that there's much else to say, except I hope they sue the hell out of these people and win. Because if you've ever had your character assassinated for something that you didn't do, and most of us have in our life, maybe it's just somebody saying something. Like me saying, you coached the kid to injure me. Okay? You coached against me. Half of that's true, right?
Yep.
But hey, I heard Mark tell this kid to do this to you, like to, punch in the ribs or try to break your fingers, whatever. Okay, well, that starts circulating. Now you're a dirty coach. Now you teach cheating. Now you teach unethical behavior. Now that affects recruiting. I'm not going to send a kid there that did that. And for the record, Mark never did anything like that. I'm just using it as an example because Mark is one of my best friends in the world. And when we coached against each other, it's amazing because it was very heated. It was respect, but it was heated. Like we wanted to beat you. You wanted to beat us, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard. It's like you throw a ball against the wall and makes a mark. You can't scrub the mark out completely in a lot of cases.
Yep.
And when you Google these kids, this is going to be the first thing that comes up for a long, long time.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons that, and I know some of the names were never brought out. Iowa did not release the names. You just had an idea who it was because they weren't competing. I don't think Iowa ever released Cassiope's name until, if they did, it was like well after this was, done. Assad was another one. We knew that there was a group of people involved.
But what's the point of whether they released their names or not if everybody knew what their names were?
Well, that's the thing. Some of the schools released the names of the kids that were being investigated, and some of the Iowa didn't do it to some of the kids.
But what's the difference if everybody knows? It's just who gets sued?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know that there's a point there. Like, if everybody knows that Tony Cassiope got involved in this, whether Iowa officially confirmed it or not, he's not wrestling. There's no reason he's not wrestling. Iowa couldn't figure out who their heavyweight was all year. And that's because Cassiope's better than those other guys. So, I mean, there's no, it doesn't matter whether some people confirmed it or not. Like, they persecuted these kids for no reason. Like, I shouldn't say for no reason, illegally. They did this illegally.
Yep.
These people have rights. You can't just say stuff about people and then they have to go prove they're not guilty or that you did this the wrong way. Like, I've had people say damaging things about me and my family and my life, and it hits close to home. This hurts. So, and I went to Iowa State for a year, full disclosure, okay? But I'm not closer to Kevin Dresser than I am to Brian Smith than I am to, my family's very close with John Smith. Like, I run the event in Stillwater. Yep. I mean, but Tom and Terry say yes every time I ask them to come on the pod. Like, this is not about rooting for one program or against another program. This is rooting for people being treated fairly.
Yep. I don't know what's going to end up happening, David. I don't know if
I know what's going to happen. They're going to sue. They're going to win. They're going to give these kids another year of eligibility. And we all know that 6th year of eligibility, because we've seen it on these kids' bodies in general, is not as good as one of the first 5.
You're right.
I mean, we know how this is going to end. This part is not hard to figure out. Like, these people, they admitted they did this illegally, so they're going to lose the lawsuit. I mean, there's no mystery there. And I'm sorry, I can tell I'm emotional, but like, some of this is not complicated. They hosed these kids. Okay, they absolutely hosed them. And my understanding, it was a political agenda. It was based on stuff that had nothing to do with these kids. It's
Correct.
like, you and me had a problem, so I'm going to try to go host some Iowa Central kids. You and me had a problem, you're going to try to host some Merrimack kids. Okay? These kids got caught up in something. I'm not saying they should have been gambling. I'm saying how it was handled. And they gave these kids this false sense of what might happen in the middle there. We're like, hey, we're just going to treat this as a first offense. And you go through an educational process and you come out the back end. They waved that carrot out in front of them and then snatched it away. So they went from your whole career's over to it's a slap on the wrist to a season. That's emotionally brutal. So I apologize for being emotional, but it bothers me big time. Okay, let's talk about the Olympic qualifier. So we talked last week, Greco got 3 through, 3 of the 6. We had 0 of the 6 when we started. The women now have all 6 through. So big shout out to Dom Parrish, Kayla Miracle, Amita Lohr for getting it done. I think the one thing that we can say about them and the men, and we'll get into this, is that tournament is a pressure cooker. Please remind me, I actually talked to Brian Medlin about this in preparation for the podcast, who is Zane Richards' coach. He said that it is so hard for the athletes to not wrestle tight there, that like normally there's a lot of joking in between, like the athletes from America, and like now everybody's sort of in their own silo. And you could see this in how all of our athletes wrestled. They did not wrestle as free as they normally do. And I'm not saying, listen, these women and men are better at wrestling than you and I ever were. Okay. So like, this is not a criticism. It's an observation, but the ladies got it done. I will tell you this, Amita Lohr, that might've been her least impressive / most impressive performance I've ever seen. And what I mean by that is if you didn't see it, normally she just tech falls or pins everybody. Okay. Which is amazing, especially at her age. She's won age group world titles. She's also won senior world titles in non-Olympic weight classes. She has dropped down to the Olympic weight class. But I texted you this. I said, she got 4-pointed. She reminded me of Snyder, where Snyder would just chip away, get a push out, get a step out, get a 1 caution 1, then get a takedown. And I saw him actually break a guy, come all the way back from like 6-0 to like 16-6, and the person was laid on their back to be pinned. They couldn't take it anymore. That athlete did not fold like that in the same way, but Allure just walked her down and got the win. And this is in the semifinals of the tournament, which is basically the finals. Like it's do or die. So what were your observations or thoughts on the ladies' performances?
Yeah, I thought the ladies, wrestled well. I do agree with you 100% that we looked like we were a little tight. We weren't out there scoring a lot of points. Miracle did the same thing. I thought she was just better than the person she was wrestling, but it was really close. It's like she was afraid to pull the trigger because she wasn't sure. But every time she pulled the trigger in this tournament, she scored. So, and she even said that after the tournament when they interviewed her, she goes, I just got to get it into my head. Every time I shoot, I usually score. So it would have been nice to, do that. So the national champion has arrived.
This is like the VIP. You have to show up casually late. I have a text that says allegedly there was a meeting. I'm not sure I actually buy that.
I'm legitimately in the University of North Carolina equipment room right now. Working on. I'm right next to the washer and dryer. I'm literally sitting at one of the head of equipment manager's desks. She's like, "Yeah, go ahead." So I'm like, I'll just do this real quick and then I'll bounce out.
You're the Nike guy. You can do that. So we talked briefly about the Pinero charges. We won't rehash them with you, but just so you know, we were in the middle of talking about our performance at the Pan Ams, and we did want to quickly congratulate Grandview, 12 titles in the last 13 years, 12 for 12 on All-Americans. I called you Sunday on the drive, and those are kind of the talks as I get older in life mean the most to me. Just talking to guys after those moments where everything matters. And so wanted to congratulate Nick, Henderson, Reedy, Jason, you there, and there's probably 50 more people I'm missing, the kids. To me, the video clip highlight of the tournament was your 297 pounders wrestling. And looking at the seeds, the 8 seed actually beat the 3 seed. So I'm assuming the 3 seed was probably favored, or had done better during the season. Clearly had done better in the season, could be the 3 seed. And how, when it was over, the kid that won didn't overly celebrate or certainly didn't party on the kid that lost. And the kid that lost actually raised the kid's hand that won instead of the referee doing it, which I thought was just a uniquely rare moment in an era of bad behavior and poor sportsmanship.
Yeah, it's one of the things about the NAI that makes it so unique and is that like you can take multiple guys at a weight class in order to compete for a national title. And our 3 seed Owen Brumgart, he is reigning NAI national champion, seeded 3rd, going back for his 2nd title, and his teammate, and he might kill me if I pronounce his name wrong, but I'm going to, Garavu Kiki Bakalau.
I'm glad. I was about to say I'm not going to try that one. Yeah.
So his name, yeah, I call him Gary, just so we're all clear.
G. Just start calling him G.
GK, exactly. So, but I was like, there's no way I'm calling you Garavus. I'm just going to call you Gary from now on, or GK.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that those guys train together, practice together. They go to small group Bible studies together. They're regular homies. And Owen is probably one of the nicest human beings on the planet, and just knows that the sport of wrestling is great, but it's there's larger things that force, and that comes from his faith that then they both have together. So it's a very cool and touching moment. But I wish that you would see that more in collegiate athletics, where if you're sitting behind Spencer Lee for 4 years, you never got a shot. That forces you to leave or forces you to become different. But it's imagine if, whatever it would have been, Corey Clark and Spencer Lee would have been at the same weight class and they went 1-2 and wrestled in the national finals. It's one of those things that I just love that part of the wrestling, is that everybody's got a shot and you just put them in the tournament. So,
yeah, I think you only get to see that at NAI, the actual thing on the mat, obviously, right? Because we all know Gilman and Clark went there together, and when Clark started the first year and Gilman didn't, Gilman can't even be on the floor if he wanted to pat him on the butt on the way off. So anyway, I
David, I guess what impressed me most about Grandview's run this year was the way that they were able to come back in the wrestlebacks, because you had some kids that were number 1 seeds, Grant, that got beat fairly early in the tournament, quarters, semis, and they came all the way back and did really, really well and got bonus points for you. That's a huge attribute to your program, the way these kids are trained and what what they're thinking.
I think you guys are both coaches. You guys understand how important the backside of the bracket is. It's just not a semi-slide and go all the way and get 6th type environment, right? You want those guys to come back and do the hardest thing in sport, which is come back and get 3rd.
Yep.
So, it was a really good run. Kudos to the rest of the NAI. It was a tight team race. For 2nd, 3rd, 4th. We were able to pull away there at the end, but once again, it was just the way that the tournament sometimes falls. And I think it's a testament to how tough the NAI tournament is, just in general. So I'm really excited about what's upcoming for the postseason for Division 2s, Division 3s, and D1s.
Yeah, I think we need to definitely give a shout out to Omi Acosta. I know you and I are buddies with him at Life University. I texted Omi on Sunday too, and I said, hey, I know you're disappointed, but there's a bunch of schools that would love to be disappointed in the position you're in, right? Like, Mark, I know at Iowa Central you won a national title, but I know there's also times you took second, and those are disappointing. But part of what makes you overall a great coach is all of those placings when you're consistently in that top 5, top 3, whatever. And life has been very consistent in the last few years in being the second best team. They were able to win the duel. So shouts to those guys as well. And for people that don't know, Omi is an alumni of Grandview and junior college. We actually coached against him several times in junior college. So congrats to him. So we were in the middle of talking about the Pan Am qualifier. We've gotten through the ladies. So we're going to get to the men. And this is where I did talk to Mark this week about this, and not you, GT, because you were obviously in the heat of battle, at the NAIAs. So, and as I look at our time, by the way, folks, we're probably not going to dive real deep on the NCAA qualifiers, regionals this weekend. We'll touch on it, but a bunch of people have articles, and we'll point you in that direction. But so I'm going to do this in terms of the weight classes. Go first. Zane Richards loses and wins. Okay, RBY qualifies out of the top side of the bracket. Looked really good. Bottom side of the bracket is Zane and Darian Cruz. Zane was either 3 or 4-0 lifetime against Darian Cruz. I talked to Brian Medlin. Mark, what did I say to you 2 hours before this match?
That he's going to have a tough time because Cruz loves to take you to the edge of the mat, thinking you're going to get a step out, and he's able to come in and push you out.
Yeah. And he's very good. I think I also told you, like, if Zane doesn't push pace, Darian's more likely to win a 2-2, 3-3, 4-4 match. Zane will win the 10-9 match. Like, if he goes, he'll win the 10-9 match. And I talked to several coaches about this analogy, but it's a weird, and I'll do it as quick as I can. If you take the number 1 golfer in the world, whoever that is right now, and I play that guy, Mark's the best golfer here, I think. But if he plays him on 18 holes, I don't know how good Grant is at golf. Okay, Mark, you're the best golfer. Whatever, that's fine. You're the best golfer. You play that guy 18 holes, any course in the world, you're not going to win. That guy's a professional. You're really good. He's a professional. But if you get to play that guy 1 hole at your home course on the hole that you want and put the pin where you like it and the day where the wind is, the time of day, all that stuff, you play him 50 times, you're going to win once. He's just going to hit a weird shot one time. You're going to hit a perfect shot one time. A putt's going to lip out for him. A putt's going to lip in for you. You're going to win. The analogy of that is, if you're the worst guy, you want to be in the least amount of wrestling situations possible, because then luck comes more into play. If you're the better guy or better woman, you need to be in as many wrestling positions as possible. Now, that's really easy to say out loud, and it's hard because, hey, I think I'm better than Grant, but every time I try to shoot and get to a wrestling position, he go behinds or reattacks me, and now I'm in wrestling positions, but they're not 50-50 positions. They're 80-20 him. Okay, so I understand the execution of this strategy is difficult. But if you stand around with somebody who's not as good as you, you're going to lose. Now, that's the opposite of what happened at 65 kgs, which we'll talk about. But at 57, I mean, even Medlin said this to me. He's just like, he didn't shoot as much as he normally does. He wanted so much to qualify the weight for the country. And that's when we talked about the pressure of that scenario. So Cruz wins. There's one thing I specifically asked Medlin about, and this is the problem with refereeing. I said to him, once you lost the challenge, once the other side won the challenge and it's 2-2, I said, I'm just asking, could you have thrown the brick and gotten time back? So for people that didn't see the match stopped with 7 seconds left. They ruled that Zane had not stepped out. Puerto Rico throws the brick. Puerto Rico wins the brick. So now it's 2-2. Cruz is winning on last point. But the step out happened before the 7 seconds. It happened at the 11 or 12 second mark. Medlin said he asked, and he said they told him, no, they don't have to do that. And then probably the worst thing that happened is after the match, the referee said, you probably should have thrown the brick. We would have put the time back on the clock. He almost took him down with 7 seconds left. Like, I'm not saying he would have won, but 4 or 5 seconds, again, helps you. So, and this happened to Cornell Robinson and I one year where one of our athletes got hit for negative wrestling, and a referee who has refereed in the Olympics, I called him the next day and I said, can you tell me what we should have done? He goes, you should have thrown the brick. I go, we did throw the brick. They said no. He goes, you should throw the brick again to the committee. I said, A, who knows you can throw the brick again when they take it from you? And B, who knows who the committee is? So I'm just telling you guys, there's a lot of goofiness going on here. The bottom line result of 57 is whoever wins the trials now has to go qualify at the last chance tournament, which is going to be difficult. I'll be like the radio host. I'll shut up and listen. 65 kilos. GT, did you even have time to see that match with everything going on in your life?
I mean, I caught more of the Greco matches. And then I caught a little bit of the women's matches, but it was just like right up until the NAIAs. So I didn't get a chance to. So I was like following on Twitter, like while coaching a national tournament. So I was like,
sure, yeah, that's fair. I just did, yeah. So Mark, thoughts on Gomez Lee?
It was just the strangest match I think I've ever seen in my life. Nick Lee goes out and scores, gets tied up, got taken down, went out and scored again, was up by 4, gets another 2, is up by 6, and all of a sudden there's an injury time in the second period, basically. I don't know if he was hurt or what, but he took about a minute and a half to recoup from it. I thought it was his knee. I thought he might be done for the year, but it wasn't. He got up, was able to move, and then did a little body lock, got 4, was down within 2, and then took him down and laced him for 3 times, ended up teching him. And I've never seen anybody fall off the cliff just like that. And he was going at him, but he was leaving himself wide open. That was a problem. Nick Lee will come at you, but he doesn't leave himself open, where this time he was going at him trying to get things, and he was leaving himself open. And, you know, Gomez was able to shoot and hit the double every time right below the knees, and he had both ankles, and then it was over.
Yeah, so I literally typed up a quick box score. So the score went, I'm going to say Lee's name for Lee's points first. 2-2-0, 2-2, 4-2, 6-2, 6-4, 6-4 at the break. Then Lee hits a 2-2, so it's 10-4, then 10-6, then 10-8. Then it's 12-8. Then there's the injury time at basically a minute 30. Then Gomez hits a 4-point move. They go out of bounds, and there's 56 seconds left, and it's 12-12. And then Gomez runs off 10 straight. He went 4-2-2. He went feet to back with 2 turns, and then he got another takedown to end it. Listen, I said this before. These guys are better than I ever was. I think it's safe to say better than Mark and GT were. We were never wrestling for a spot on the Olympic team. Okay? It is – I don't know that Nick Lee was I don't think Nick Lee's out of shape. Let me say that, okay? So if he got tired, I think it was based on emotions. But it was such a weird match. It was like a 7-year-old match where whoever shoots first wins. Like, there was no defense. And I did think it was weird. I know Nick Lee has beat guys and beat good guys when he's in double overs, but I don't think you want to let Gomez start in a bear hug. I think like that's one of his favorite positions. And somebody pointed out Gomez represented Mexico. Okay, so I want to make sure we're saying this clearly. But Puerto Rico has now qualified 57 and 65 with Cruz and Rivera, and America has not, which is super interesting. So the 3 Greco weights and the 2 men's freestyle weights after the trials have to go to the last chance to try to qualify. So GT, if you're watching or listening, you're frozen. You may want to like relog in because you have this amazing look on your face right now. So anyway, All right, conference. The allocations came out, Mark, and the conference pre-seeds have came out. We can go through all of these. I have pulled up here. Let me do this. Okay. So hopefully this will come up. Great. Okay. These are the Big 10 and Big 12 projected conference tournament points and national qualifiers. So let's start out with something weird. This is the first time since I can remember that Iowa does not have a number 1 seed. Not saying it's surprising, not saying anybody got hosed, just it's very, but it is surprising, I guess, in the big picture. And the second thing is, I read that they originally had submitted Schriever and then put Teskey in, and it was too late. And so now he becomes the 14 seed. So now he gets Buzaka's first round. So where do you guys want to go with this? Do you guys want to talk about just where we look team-wise? Do you want to talk about individual seeds? Where do you guys want to go? We got about 20, 25 minutes where we can talk about this.
I'm good with whatever we talk about.
All right. Well, let's look at the team scores. I think Penn State's a pretty obvious favorite. And then it gets super interesting. Michigan, 98.5, Nebraska, 96.5, Iowa, 94.5, Ohio State, 89.5. That's tier 2. I don't know how much people team-wise are really worried about who's going to take second in a specific conference, but if Iowa were to take 4th, that would certainly be newsworthy. And Michigan is interesting to me. Mark, you've been higher on Michigan all year than I have. I feel like it's tough with so many 6-year guys and so many 1-year transfers and everything else. And at the same time, it's tough during the regular season. When you get to the postseason, now's the time a lot of these guys can turn it on because it's like, okay, it's a sprint. I mean, we're in March, right? Like this whole thing's done in basically 3.5 weeks.
Yeah. I think Michigan, I mean, they've got a team that's been there. You know, they have 6 returning All-Americans on their team, whether they were from Michigan or Northwestern, but they've got 6 guys that have been All-Americans. And when you have that, this tournament's not going to be a big surprise to any of those guys. They're going to go out. They know what they need to do. Supposedly, Bornett says that they're healthy for the first time all year. So let's see what they look like when they're healthy. They looked real good when they beat Iowa in the duel. I mean, they looked really good. And then following weekend, they went down and Nebraska put a beating on them. So, I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. It should be a good tournament. I think Penn State will probably run away with it like everybody else thinks. So we'll see what happens.
So, GT, you can talk about this question or anything you want in the Big Ten. Kale seems to be indicating that Strachey is not banged up as seriously as it originally looked. I don't think there's a lot to gain for Strachey. Well, let me rephrase this. If Strachey does not, like if he, weighs in and then loses, there's some bad things that happen to him. He'll no longer be undefeated. That affects his ability to win the Hodge. And probably the worst thing for somebody in the world, he won't be the number 1 seed at the NCAA is the way the formula works, although they could rejigger it. So your thoughts on the conference, on what you think Strachey will do? You're still an active coach, all that stuff.
Well, I think, you guys hit the nail on the head. I think like if you look at the team score, like up on the board, if you guys are watching, the stream here is, 2 through basically 6 or 7. It's basically pretty tight, right? You're just going to have to see all those guys, compete for points, placement, everything. Like getting 3rd is going to be a huge deal, getting into the placement points at these tournaments. When it comes to Strachey, I think, whenever it is, like, you got to feel healthy. So, once again, I don't think that there's a world in existence where Starachi doesn't get an at-large bid if he goes 0-2 and weighs in and does all the things he's got to, right?
Right. He's the first at large for sure.
Without question. But, like Hodge implications, team title implications, all these other things, all of a sudden those things become a factor for Penn State, but like not in the sense that, anything worse than like an injury to one of the top guys on anybody's team, would implicate, like how's he going to look while at nationals. So I think as far as the seeds are concerned, and with all of the pre-allocations or the allocations for the NCAA tournament, you're looking at each individual weight class and going into its entirety of where, 11 out of 14 are going at 41 or, all of those type of things. So you're trying to figure out where you need to get to in the bracket in order to be able to go to the NCAA tournament. So I think that there's a lot of that still has to be played out, not just the team title, but like how many people can you get to the NCAA championships for each one of these teams?
Yeah, I think like it must be great to be that good, like where you're worried about the Hodge and being undefeated and that stuff, because Sirachi's got the longest active winning streak, which is probably going to end through no fault of his own. So we've seen Kale before, though. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they don't care about the conference tournament, but we've seen at least twice where they lost the Big Ten and won the Nationals. I don't think this changes whether they win the Big Ten or not, but I don't think that's really what they care about. They care about that last tournament of the year, and they are unbelievably good at wrestling up to or exceeding seeds. So I pulled up the seeds for the Big Tens. We can go through these pre-seeds. So 25, as usual, is a complete crapshoot. Dean Peterson at one point was ranked number 3 in the country, and he's the 9 seed in his conference. So I think this will be pandemonium. I mean, just in the top 8 are Ramos, Ayala, Barnett, McKee, Caleb Smith, Braden Davis, DiAugustino, McCrone, Peterson. So your first round matchup is Peterson-McCrone. The winner gets Ramos. The other quarterfinal matchups are Ayala, DiAugustino. DiAugustino won that match, right, Mark?
Yes, in overtime.
Yeah, in the duel. Yep. Barnett versus Davis, McKee versus Caleb Smith. If the semi-seeds hold, which has not happened once this year at 125, it's Ramos, McKee, Ayala, Barnett. 33. So Ragusin, Shawver, Bouzakis, Van D, Nagao, Madrigal, Braxton Brown, Tyler Wells. So Shawver, this is probably the weakest weight in terms of the Big Ten, in terms of where these guys are ranked nationally, because Nagao, I think, is still ranked the highest, but a lot of that has to do with last year. So rather than go through and pick and all this stuff, I don't know that there's any interesting matchups here. Let's go to 41. So the semis here are fire. The top 5 are Bartlett, Mendez, Woods, Hardy, Lemley. So, Mark, we'll just do this. You top of the bracket. Bartlett versus the Hardy, Lemley winner. Do you see Bartlett getting through?
I do.
And GT, Mendez, Real Woods, who you got?
I'll take Woods in that match. He's been wrestling a lot better. I saw him wrestle live at the Oklahoma State duel, and he looked like he was back to his old dynamic self again. So I'll take Woods in that matchup.
Yeah, he's interesting. Hardell said he talked to him after the Oklahoma State duel, and Woods said I had to get some stuff fixed, and he did. So I mean, that's encouraging if you're an Iowa person. 49, Lovett, Gomez, Rachi, Kasich, D'Amelio, Ethan Miller on down the line. So, okay, we'll switch. GT, Lovett, Kasich. You see Lovett getting through to the finals?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Mark,
that, yeah, for sure.
Mark, Gomez or Rachi? Gomez literally coming straight off qualifying for the Olympics.
I'll go with Gomez.
And I guess let's go back to 41. Who are we picking in the finals, boys? Mark, who you got to win it?
I'm gonna take Real Woods to come back and win the Big Tens. And even though Bartlett beat him by 5, I think Real will probably have something to say about that. So I'm gonna go with Real. That's probably being a homer, but I just have a feeling. I don't know why.
GT, do you have Woods or do you have Bartlett?
I think I'll take Bartlett just to get the soundbite out there. I take Bo Bartlett at 141.
Yeah.
But like, I think also to Mark's point, the way that Bo Bartlett wrestles, you have a fighting chance against him every single duel. Because like he plays everything super close.
What was weird, GT, and you and I were there. The only match he wrestled, it feels like that wasn't close this year, was Woods.
Right? I'm like, this is absurd. Like I watched him down at the US Open down in Texas, and it was just like just kept winning.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But that's his game though. That he's good at that game.
Well, and people forget he got his hand raised against Nick Lee in Vegas a year ago, and they switched it. So, okay. We have Lovett over Gomez at 49, boys. Any dissension there?
Not right now. Watch out for Gomez. I'm telling you.
I know, Mark. We know you've been on the Gomez train early, and you've been right. So, and by the way, we're specifically not going to talk about whether people that live in America can wrestle for foreign countries. A, we're not going to change anything, and B, I don't know what USA Wrestling's position on this is, and I'm not going to say anything that might contradict it. So just we're aware that that's a situation. Clearly, we're just not going to discuss it. So moving forward, 57, Levi Haynes. Okay, so Mark, you picked Brayton Lee early in the year to be an All-American, and somebody pointed out that Saldate probably should be seated above Lee and put out some pretty good empirical data. I think what's interesting here is Franek is the 4 seat. So I think probably the most interesting match to pick is Franek Robb which would be the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
One of these guys is going to be on the backside early. So GT, Franek or Robb?
Franek, dancing with the lady that brought me.
Yes, that is correct. Mark?
Franek.
Okay. And we have Levi Haynes winning this bracket, boys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless something changes.
Yes.
Unless he forgot how to wrestle, but yeah.
Okay.
He's awfully good.
Yeah. All right. This is probably the weight I think it's the Big Tens people are looking forward to the most. Committee Messenbrink. I think that as fun as I would set the over-under on this match at 19.5. Mark, over-under.
Over.
GT.
I'm taking the under. Just 19.5 points is absurd.
11-9's not that crazy. I'm just saying.
I know, but I think they're both capable of putting up those amount of points and causing a shootout.
Yeah.
But it's the Big Ten finals. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, just from the standpoint that they both throw the kitchen sink at each other, which is amazing. And once again, it's just great wrestling for both of them. But, I could see any of two different things happening. You could get a pin, you could get a tech fall, you could get, if
we get the tech fall, it's going over 19.5. I'm pretty sure.
Hey, 15 rip. Let's just go.
15 rip. Okay. There's long odds on 15 rip for sure. That's
put $1 on it just to make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that this match is fascinating because both these guys' attack volume levels are so high, right? They can't, neither one of them can hang out for more than 20 seconds without pulling the trigger. And Hamidi, especially, his defense is not super great, but he just doesn't care. He's just going to keep coming forward and walk you down. And that's where I think these guys' styles feed into each other. They both like to reshoot, reattack. They're both better on offense than they are on reattacks, but they can just score so many points so many different ways. But a fascinating matchup. Okay, Starachi. So it feels like I will say this. I think Rocco Welsh has a chance to win this bracket if these are the seeds, because I don't think Welsh is a huge underdog against Ruth, and I don't think he'd be a big underdog against Griffith or Kennedy. If you guys remember the Griffith match, he was tied and picked down and got rode out for the loss. And he had dominated on his feet. There had been no points, but he had gotten all the stallings. So I would think Ohio State would make that adjustment, but that's definitely something to watch. It's 74. 84, Salazar, Pinto, Truex, Ryder the Pinning Machine, Rogotsky. I don't know what to say here. Like, Salazar's an interesting dude because I think he's something in one, but his only loss is the Colton Hawks, which is kind of a weird loss here. So,
Yeah.
Let's go to 97 might be the other weight that's kind of weird. So, Mark, Zach Glazer's the 3 seed.
Yes.
Does he make the finals?
Yes.
He beats Jackson Smith, or Jackson Smith loses before then?
He beats Smith.
Okay, and then Brooks wins?
Yes.
Okay, just didn't know how far we were going out on that limb.
No, not going that far.
GT, you got Smith over Glazer. Do you have any other upsets at this weight?
I could see Joel's beating Allred.
That feels like yes, that duel was very coin flippy, right? Like,
yep.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Poznansky. I just don't know if he can beat Jackson Smith, but that's an intriguing 7-2 matchup.
I agree with you. I just think that's a bad draw for him. Like, if he could have got to the 6 hole, or even if he'd be better at the 11 hole than the 7 hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So heavyweight, Kirkfleet, Feldman, really impressive as a freshman to be the 2 seed here. Neville's the transfer is the 5. Bradley Hill's the 7. So let me see if I can pull up the Big 12 seeds real quick.
We never did say, who do you guys like at 65, Big Ten? Who do you pick? I think Messenbrink takes it all. David?
You think he takes the whole tournament, you're saying?
I think he wins the Big Ten.
Oh, Big Tens.
Yes.
Well, I'm totally biased because his dad wrestled for my dad, so I will agree with that.
Grant?
I'll take Messenbrink.
Okay.
I think that throws a wrench into everything.
All right, let's see if I can share this. Big 12 brackets. Okay. So if we can see these, Noah Certain's the 1. We're not going to go by numbers because it's on the side of the bracket. Volk's the 5. Tanner Jordan's the 4. Poulin's the 3. Spratley's the 2. What's interesting about this weight class is Certain is the 1, Spratley's the 2, but Spratley beat Certain head-to-head, but it's body of work on how you get to these seeds. So I will say this as we're talking. So the picks, if everybody wrestles to their seeds at the Big 12, Oklahoma State would score 126.5, Iowa State would score 126.5, and Missouri would score 115.5. So Missouri's chance to repeat is in question for sure. They've been really banged up and not wrestled well the second semester. So let's just do something stupid because we'll be wrong. Let's pick who's in the finals and who wins 125. I'll be Missouri guy and take Certain over Spratley. Mark?
I'll take Volk in the finals against Spratley, and I'll take Spratley to win it.
GT? GT, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm right next to the dryer and the washer.
Yeah, you're okay.
So
Yeah.
trying to make sure that
You're good.
interrupt the stream. So it's
Yeah.
I'll take. Yeah, I'm just gonna go chalk 1-2.
Okay, you got 1 winning?
No, I got 2 winning. But I thought you were talking about just getting to finals.
No, you're good.
Oh,
That's fine.
okay. Well, then I'll take Spradley to win it.
You got Spradley over Certain. Mark's got Spradley over Volk, and I got Certain over Spradley. All right, 33. And let's not get cute here. Are we everybody saying Fix over Frost? Do we have any dissension there?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Go Evan Frost.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, 41, Echemendia or Echemendia. His semi would be the Carlson Titus winner. And unless something goofy happens, it's going to be Tegan, Jamison, Happel. A weird draw here. Edmund is the 6, and he just beat Happel, who's the 3. So you can't be super happy about that if you're Happel. So, GT, who you got here? You have Echemendia coming out of the top, and I'm guessing, and then who do you have coming out of the bottom?
I'm going to take Happel out of the bottom.
And then who to win?
Echemendia.
Mark?
I'm going to take Titus to come out of the top.
Okay.
And I'm going to take Jamison out of the bottom. I'm going to take Jamison to win it.
Mark, you have officially become the Oklahoma State guy on this podcast.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, like, that's a thing now. All right, 49, Swiderski's the 1, Jordan Williams is the 4, Ty Waters is the 3, Willie McDougall is the 2. Swiderski can help himself a lot if he can get through this bracket. I've got Swiderski over Ty Waters in the finals. What do you guys got?
I'll do the same.
GT?
I'll take Swiderski and McDougall.
Okay.
And Swiderski winning.
57, Vinny Zerban versus the world. He's the 1. This is a fascinating 4-5 matchup. Chittum's the 4, Mahler's the 5, Teague Travis is the 2, Ryder Downey's the 3. Okay. I think we have Vinny going to the semis. Who wins the quarterfinal match, GT, Mahler or Chittum?
I'm going to take Cody Chittum to get to the semis, then lose to Vinny Zerban in the semifinals, and then I have Ryder Downey winning the entire thing and upsetting Vinny Zerban in the finals.
Okay. Mark?
I'm going to take Chittum to win. I take Chittum into the finals over Zerban. And then I will take Chittum to win the whole Big 10 or Big 12s.
Okay, I'm going to pick my 2 border brawlers. Vinny's actually, there's 3. Oh, my gosh. I just realized that 3 kids wrestled in our event. Vinny, Mahler, and Teague Travis. So I'm going to pick Teague Travis to come out of the bottom. I'm going to pick Vinny to come out of the top. I got blessed to be in his corner, and I'll take Vinny to win. 65. Actually, we're just going to close with 65. We're going to come back to that. 74, DeVos, I feel like, is a pretty heavy favorite here. Mako's on the same side of the bracket as him, so that's big for NCAA seeding. Braden Thomas, who's only 9-8, gets the 3 seed because he beat Mako in the duel. 84, because I'm going to fly through this, guys, because I want to really talk about 65. Keckheisen is the 1, Feldkamp's the 5. In kind of a surprising move, Hawks is the 4. Clayton Whiting is not wrestling for them. Bennett Bergey's 3, Plot's 2. Bergey took Plot to overtime, and Plot had to score late to get to overtime. So that's an interesting match. 97, Tanner Sloan is 1. Bachman 4. Rocky is 3. Buchanan is 2. Elam and Buchanan in the semi. Winner most likely gets Sloan. And then the 2 weights to kind of really focus on. Hendrickson's the 1, Doucette's 5, Heinzelman's 4. They've wrestled 14 times. The winner will most likely will probably lose to Hendrickson. Elam got thumped by Bastida. Okay, the 2 matches I want to talk about, if they happen, Hendrickson, Bastida. Who wins and why, Mark?
I'm going to go Hendrickson just because he's a pinner. And Bastida on his feet, I think, is better. But if he makes one mistake and gets out of position, he's going to his back. And Henderson's known to do that. So I'm going to go first time out. Henderson wins. They haven't wrestled.
Correct, they haven't wrestled because they're undefeated, for sure.
Yeah.
GT?
I'm taking Bastida. I just think that he's proven to me over the course of this year that he is a true heavyweight and that he is able to utilize the 3-point takedown to his advantage. And I don't think that he chooses to go underneath Hendrickson, where Hendrickson is a very, very, very dangerous man where he could reverse and pin anybody. So I think it just comes down to takedowns. And I think Bastida gets him with, 2 or 3 takedowns, not gap, but I think he gets him for 2 or 3 takedowns, and maybe Hendrickson gets 1 or 2.
I'm in the GT camp. I actually think Bastida can win nationals. I know, Mark, I've told you that on and off the air. He is the perfect example of a guy when he stopped cutting weight, just how good he is at wrestling took over. And the foreigners are not used to making weight like 15 times in 4 months. They're used to making weight like 1 time every 2 months.
Yep.
And so now that he doesn't have to make weight at all, he didn't get fat. Like, he's not fat. He's just bigger. He's just he's an oversized 197 pounder.
I think he's weighing in about 235.
I heard
237 somewhere in that area. Yeah. So
probably depends on if
he moves really, really well. Obviously, I think he's phenomenal on his feet. I just got a feeling he might get in a bad position from a shot, and Hendrickson's just known to put people on their back. And once you get there, you're not getting off. So,
yeah. All right. I think the match that everybody wants to, I think there's a couple conference matches that everybody wants to see. Hamidi Messenbrink, Crookham Vito, and then I think the one we all want to see, which is 65, Keegan O'Toole, David Carr. Mark, who wins and why?
I think Carr gets him at the Big 12s. I think David Carr's been preparing for this all year long for this one match, and I think Keegan's just wrestling. I don't think Keegan's given Carr a second thought until he has to wrestle him. It's just the way Keegan is. So I'm going to go with Carr this time, and then I'll probably change my decision at Nationals.
We don't want to change your decision. You're saying Carr at Big 12s, Keegan at Nationals.
Probably, yeah.
Means your pick. But, like, you'd be consistent. Yeah. Like, we love to give you trouble, Mark. You're being consistent because you've said all along. Okay, GT, same question.
I'm going to be taking Keegan O'Toole to win the Big 12 title, and then I'm going to have Keegan O'Toole winning the NCAA title.
Okay. I like Carr in this match. I think it's the hunter versus the hunted. I think Mark's point is a good one, that this has been on Carr's mind. I don't think Keegan's not thinking about it at all. I think Carr's just thinking about it more.
I want to mention to you the one thing I wish we would have done.
And I think the other thing that's tied to that is, I think, Mark, when Keegan didn't wrestle in the duel, and I don't think it's his fault, he was sick. Guy's never ducked anybody, okay? But I think if that affected either one of those guys, it probably put more fuel on the fire for Carr to want to really go get this.
Yeah.
So, we both coached. It hadn't been that long. I feel like that's kind of the gist of it, correct?
Yeah, in my opinion.
So, all right. Well, I think GT's got people talking to him in the background, and so he turned his volume down, which we appreciate, so we're not getting background noise. This is one of the great weekends of the year. Stuff is being streamed everywhere. There are obviously all the conferences going, Pac-12s, ACCs, MACs, EIWAs, everything else, SoCons. So get your fix. The Ohio State tournament is this weekend also, Mark. So that is the last team from our Hall of Fame duels to see how they have done. But our Hall of Fame duels teams have done amazing in the postseason. So
isn't Pennsylvania individual states this weekend also?
You're right. Yes, PA is. Yeah. So they were not in our. We didn't have any. We had STEM with their national preps.
We always consider Pennsylvania, Ohio, 2 of the strongest high school programs in the United States. California's in there, Illinois is in there, but Ohio and Pennsylvania has always been up there in that top tier. So it's going to be good wrestling this weekend for the high school kids.
Completely agree. Next week, we'll talk about the results of the conference tournaments. We recorded on Wednesday today because I have a meeting on Thursday, but we'll definitely record Thursday next week. And by then the brackets will be out. The brackets come out like 6 p.m. on Wednesday night, Central Time, I believe.
Yep. And we'll know who the allocations got, who got through for wild cards and everything. So it's always a fun week. Yep.
The last thing to explain to people, if you're watching, is the way allocations work are if Mark earned an allocation for his conference, if he places, let's say like he's in I think the Big 12 has 57 allocations, and there's 6 of them in every weight except 3 where there's 5. So if we round it up to 60, just to keep it simple and say it's top 6 in every weight, okay? If Mark places top 6, then that's just as it should be, okay? Like he filled his spot. If he places worse than 6th, he goes into a pool of people that are considered for the final, and it's generally 5 to 7 spots or 4 to 7 spots on the wild cards.
Yep.
And so if you fall out of, if you were supposed to qualify and didn't, you were hoping that everybody else who was good that was supposed to qualify did. Because like, let's say Mark's ranked 20th in the country. Well, there's really only 19 guys reasonably that are going to go ahead of him. But if 6 of those guys also didn't qualify, he could be in trouble. Where theoretically, none of them should be in the wild card pool because they all should have gotten their own qualification. Yes. So as you're rooting for this, if your athlete did not meet his qualification, then your goal, you're hoping that everybody else did so you get in. And Flo and Intermat are really good at doing articles like on Monday on like who should probably get the allocations. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for, because by the time you hear from us, the allocations will have already been handed out, the wild cards have been handed out, and the brackets will have been seeded. So just so people, we know people, I'll tell you, Mark, and I've said this before, but one of the greatest things about coming to USA Wrestling from track, and it's no offense to track because track gave you and me our chance, okay, was we weren't allowed to talk about certain things that Flo said or did or Intermat said or did. And now we can just talk about what everybody's saying or doing because there's a lot of people in this space that are doing great things. And if they're doing something really well, we don't need to recreate that wheel. We can point people in that direction.
Correct.
All right. So we would appreciate everybody watching and listening. Shout out to Otto Fitzgerald, Ostrander, OFO. We'll have to come up with a nickname for that. So, but I'm going to give Ben a call probably when we hang up, Mark. And we appreciate everybody watching and listening. Have a great conference tournament weekend. We'll see you all next week.